Hello, my friend. Thank you for being here with me today. Sometimes, we carry memories not as photographs, but as footsteps. Footsteps that echo quietly in our minds, soft, steady, and deeply familiar. This is one of those memories. It's a memory of walking, of silence, of learning how to live, and how to let go. This is a story about my father, and the hundreds of walks we shared, and what those walks taught me about time, presence, and love. I grew up in a sleepy town that most people would pass through without noticing. The kind of place where mailboxes still creaked, dogs napped in the road, and neighbors knew your middle name. My father was a man of stillness. He didn't rush, didn't multitask, didn't fill silence with noise. He believed in moments. Not big ones, not flashy ones, but small, honest ones. And for as long as I can remember, his favorite moment of every day was the afternoon walk. He'd finish his tea, fold the newspaper, and say the same thing. "Let's go stretch the legs." That was his invitation, and I accepted it 1,000 times. We'd set off slowly, sometimes with no shoes, just feeling the earth under our feet. He knew every crack in the path, every bird's call, every shift in the wind. And somehow, he noticed me too, even when I didn't say a word. Our walks took us past trees older than us both, fields where the grass bowed with the breeze, and a little creek that whispered year-round. He showed me how to look at things, not just see them, but truly look. The way ants worked in quiet teams. How moss always grew on the north side of stone. Why the sky sometimes turned that strange golden color before rain. And when I asked questions, he rarely gave direct answers. Instead, he'd say things like, "What do you think?" Or, "Let's listen a little longer." When I was around 10, I asked him what he believed in. Not in a religious way, just what mattered to him most. He paused. Then he said, "Kindness, stillness, and good boots." We both laughed, but I never forgot that answer. Kindness, stillness, and good boots. It made perfect sense somehow. One summer, I had scraped my knee badly. I didn't want to walk. I was sulking, angry at the world. He sat next to me and said nothing. After a few minutes, he gently helped me up and said, "We don't walk to feel strong. We walk to remember that healing is possible." That one sentence, I've carried it my entire life. As I grew older, I began to pull away. As teenagers do. My world expanded, music, friends, distractions. I thought I didn't have time for walks. I thought those quiet afternoons were behind me. And yet, every so often, when things in my life felt too loud or too fast, I'd find myself outside, walking. His rhythm had entered my bones. Even in his absence, I walked like him. I remember visiting home one winter. I was in college then. He had grown slower, but not softer. We walked through snow. Our breaths made little clouds in the air. He wore his old flannel coat, the one with the elbow patches. "Things feel different now," I said quietly. He looked at me and said, "Good. That means you're paying attention." He wasn't a man of long speeches. But when he said something, it stayed with you. In my late 20s, I went through a rough time. A heartbreak. A job loss. A sense of floating with no anchor. I came home, unsure of what I was even looking for. And as always, he asked, "Want to walk?" This time, I didn't hesitate. We walked in silence for a long while. Then he said, "Life doesn't always give you clear signs. Sometimes, all you can do is keep walking. One step. One breath. Eventually, the fog lifts." It did. But not all at once. And never completely. But that walk, that moment, was the first crack of light. Eventually, the day came when his steps began to falter. His back bent. His pace slowed. He used a cane, then a chair. But he never stopped going outside. Even if he couldn't walk far, he still wanted to be under the sky. "Still counts," he'd say. And it did. One spring afternoon, when the blossoms were just starting to bloom, I wheeled him down the path. The air was soft, like a sigh. He closed his eyes and said, "This is heaven. Right here." He didn't mean it as poetry. He meant it as truth. As his health declined, we spent less time moving and more time sitting. Under the maple tree. By the creek. On the porch. But those moments were just as rich. Because we had spent decades preparing for them. Training ourselves to be quiet together. To just be. A few weeks before he passed, I sat beside his bed. His hands were thinner, but still warm. He whispered, "I don't fear the end. What I worry about is, did I leave behind enough quiet?" I told him he had. I promised him his silence would echo in the best ways. He smiled and fell asleep. After the funeral, I couldn't walk. I tried, but my legs felt heavy. The path felt cruel without him. For weeks, I stayed inside. But one morning, the light came through the window just right, like it used to on our walks. So I put on my shoes, and I stepped outside. The air smelled like damp leaves. Birdsong filtered through the trees. And I began to walk. Slowly, softly, and something inside me began to breathe again. With each step, I remembered his voice, his rhythm, his love, quiet and steady. Now I walk every day. Sometimes in the woods. Sometimes around the block. Sometimes just around the garden. And in those walks, he returns to me. Not as a ghost. Not as memory alone. But as presence. As rhythm. As the deep knowing that love never really ends, it just changes form. If you've lost someone, a father, a mother, a friend, you understand this. You know how silence can hurt, but also how it can heal. You know how grief lives in your chest, but also in your legs, in your breath, in your footsteps. That's why we walk. To remember, to honor, to keep moving through the dark. And if you're lucky enough to still have someone, a parent, a partner, a child, please take the walk. No matter how short, no matter how slow, let it be a gift. Not because you'll remember every detail, but because one day they will. And those quiet steps will echo long after words have faded. Sometimes I talk to him while I walk. Not out loud, always, but in my heart. I tell him what I'm thinking, what I've learned, what I still don't understand. And sometimes, just sometimes, I feel an answer. In the wind, in the light, in the way my feet know where to go. So if you're listening now and you feel lost, take a walk. If your heart is heavy, take a walk. If you're lonely, take a walk. Not to escape, but to return. To yourself. To the ones you've loved. To the silence that still holds them. Thank you for walking with me today. If this story brought someone to mind, someone you miss, or someone you still have beside you, I hope you'll honor them. Maybe by going for a walk. Or maybe just by sitting with the memory. Because in the end, all we really take with us are the quiet moments, the gentle hands, the shared silence, the footsteps that never truly leave us. If this story touched your heart, I invite you to share your own in the comments. I read every single one. And each memory, yours or mine, helps someone else feel less alone. Until next time, my friend, walk gently, breathe deeply, and remember, the path never ends, it just turns.